Hello, welcome to episode 132, where I am programming an NES game live from scratch on Twitch. Last episode here, we were working on... Oh, I bumped the mic. We were working on getting things going again after a long hiatus. I unfortunately didn't do stream on Thursday like I wanted to, but that was mostly because the baby was not cooperating and I needed to help my wife. So when we last left off on Monday, we had made it so that the ship could pivot left and right, and we then fixed the fact that the player, when it is firing, can actually destroy the enemies properly. The enemies actually appear on screen properly, like they should, and the explosions work properly. So we were fixing the things that were broken by the change of splitting the entities from the sprite identifiers, which are just, like an asset identifier essentially. So by doing that, it gives us the ability to do things like what we're doing with the player ship, and pivot left and right, because the entity is no longer controlling the sprite that's displayed. So, alright. So then what we decided to do, or what we were looking at, was the fact that the map here that I'm using has the enemies placed on them, and I had added the concept of the entity to the custom properties. It had the sprite previously, and what we needed to be able to do was load that content from the map file. And one of the things that I said I wanted to do last time was change the way we're loading the file, because right now we're using this C library, not here. We're using the C library JSMN, and it works, but it is not the easiest to work with, and adding new stuff is kind of painful. So what I wanted to do was switch over to using the this Poco project library, which is something I've worked with in the past. If you've ever used C++ before and used a library like Boost, this is comparable. I'm just a little bit more familiar with this versus Boost. So that's why I went with that. So the way that you use this is you take your JSON code, you load it in as a string, and then you instantiate a parser and call parse on it, and it creates objects that you can then use to reference the properties within your JavaScript objects. And that's a lot simpler than all of the hoops we have to kind of jump through to get the information out using this library. We chose that way back in the beginning because I was kind of trying to stick with straight up C. I don't know, just to make it difficult for myself or something. And in the end, it's made it harder and more frustrating to work with. So I think it's time we fix that. So let's just remove these from the project. And I've already gone through the process of loading the Poco libraries through VC package, which, if you've never used it before, is a package manager for Visual C, kind of like NPM or NuGet if you've used those before. So now we have to kind of fix the mess that we have here with the asset tool. Now, I don't remember, I think the asset tool has its own repo. It's really honestly been so long that I don't even remember. Assuming it does, I want to commit the changes that we have here in case we have to revert back for some reason. Source tree, are you going to load here or what? There it is. All right. Okay, I figured it probably did. Let's stage all those changes. Actually, let me re-enable those. Okay, and then let's build. Make sure that it still builds. It should. Okay, cool. So let's close the solution, just so everything is committed to disk. Go to source tree, stage all. Storing changes before switching to Poco JSON parsing. All right. All right, so we've saved off those changes. I don't think there's anything that's untracked. Let's just double check here. Yeah, all of this stuff is just stuff that was worked on while just kind of messing with the project and trying to convert resources and assets in the game. So, all right, let's get to this. So, I think I'm just going to actually delete these because we don't need this code at all. Now this is going to be broken. Well, that's interesting. Why is that broken? That's what you do in Visual Studio. Let's do a full rebuild because I think it got confused. There we go. Okay, that's what the problem was. It got confused by the change. So, all right, we have all these functions here that deal with the JSON code. Let's just comment these out for now because all of this stuff is not going to be needed anymore. Let's see. So that can end there. And then do we have... We don't have the declarations. Okay. So we're just going to have a problem where it's going to start saying, I don't know what this is. Right? This is one of those things where, for me anyway, as a programmer who's been doing this for a while, when you're refactoring code like this, it's better to rely on the compiler to help you figure out what you need to do versus trying to do it yourself by hand and hoping that you're good enough to catch all this stuff. So remove the dependencies to make sure that it's no longer accessible, and then just let the compiler tell you what's still broken, because it's going to find it a lot more accurately and quickly than you are. So, all right, so we've got here, we've loaded the file, and we just need to parse it now. All right, so we've got the parser loaded in there. Let's take a look back at the source example. So it's Poco JSON parser. We'll just call it parser. We have our code already loaded into memory. So it is in buffer, right? Because we read all the text already. Okay, so now we have our Poco dynamic var that it returns back as a type that we need. I swear if I get one more political email, I'm just gonna turn off all my email notifications. It's just insane. Like literally one every half hour, it seems like. It's just Like, I don't know who they think they're convincing at this point. All right, so we've parsed it, and now we have the thing that we need. We want to extract the object. So if we go back to if we go back to here and we look at the original map file, we can see it starts with an object that we want to extract from the parsed JSON, right? Because that's what that bracket means. This is all one object that we're going to extract out. And so let's do that just as the example describes. So extract, what is it? It's an object pointer. Right, so we're going to extract that. And then from there, we should be able to get the properties by doing get value, get array, whatever the appropriate get is. And I keep doing var, and what I really mean is auto. Var is in C#, and that's why I keep getting confused. All right, so let's look at what we need to do. Hope everybody's having a good night and a good Monday. It's since I started the new job, Mondays are not so bad. Definitely makes a huge difference when you're not kind of stressed out about the beginning of the week. There are other challenges, like just, figuring out the new stuff and understanding the new project, but I can handle that kind of stuff. That's normal technical work versus being stressed out and frustrated about things that, I don't have a lot of control over. Just realized I never changed over to the streaming view. There we go. All right, so let's see here. I'm basically going to just take the existing code and replicate it, but using the new object stuff. So sprites is a layer in here, is it not? Am I opening? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm looking at the map, and what I really want is the project file, which is this. So, okay, so sprites is an array of strings. So what I want to do is I want to get that array. So I already forgot what it is. Get array. Well, it says it doesn't like that. Let's see here. Get array for sprites. Why doesn't it like that? Let's see. Object, it's saying it is a JSON object pointer. That is an object pointer. Object get array. Has no member get array. You know what? It's probably we need to include the header. It's one of those things that's weird about C, is how you can get a partial definition that's enough that the compiler doesn't complain about the type that you're using, but then when you actually try to use the object for something, the compiler doesn't know what to do because it doesn't have the complete definition. If all you're doing is messing with pointers, it really literally doesn't care. All right, so that wasn't the problem. Why are you highlighted? Oh. Okay, cool. Oh, no, it's still complaining. Weird. So it's there. JSON object API. Well, it's getting it as an object pointer, isn't it? So if it's getting an object pointer, then shouldn't it be... wouldn't it technically be the pointer deref? So that looks like a bug in their documentation, maybe? Maybe possibly. That seems to make it a little bit happier. Okay. So the next thing we're doing once we have the sprites is assuming that that was valid and is an array. So let's see, how do we check that that's shared pointer to JSON array sprites? Let's see, is there anything about it being valid or okay? So if null, if not, sprites is null. And let's see, probably want to, well, we're going to iterate over this, so we don't care if it doesn't have any elements in it, because then we can, our loop will take care of that. So let's see. So that's the array size. So that's what I was saying before. So we'll do a sprites. Right. So we're just iterating over all the sprite entries in here, which are just strings. We should see that if we dereference this, that it should tell us it is a, let's see, it's a vector. That should return the string value. Is there just like a string value? Is string, is struct? It should be a string based on the array we're reading in. So let's see. Let's just double check here. So yeah, we have those strings, and so what we're going to do is for each of those, like I said, we're just going to replicate this data. Sorry, this implementation. So let's copy this out. We'll have to change it a little bit to work with the iterator and the new stuff. But all right, project file count. Where is that defined? Project file count UN32. That's over here. So let's move that over here. We don't need to do this anymore. We already have the value as a string. Let's see, temp. Full path goes into temp, and then get absolute path takes that. So what? Project files. What is this doing? This is iterating over project files. Got array value is string into buffer, get the absolute path of temp, and then if it exists, get the name of the thing. I don't remember why we're doing that, to be honest. Worked on this so long ago. It's been a while. I've forgotten. So anyway, let's see if we can't puzzle out what's going on here. So project file count when you start out is going to be 0. Project file count, does that get passed in? Or project file name? Project files. So that gets passed in. So that must be coming from something where it's already populated. All right, so what we want to do is we want to populate buffer with the name of the file from the JSON. Oh wait, is it not that? Where are we putting it? Are we putting it into temp? Huh, that's interesting. So I don't know why. I don't know why we care about this at all, since we're then just overwriting. Are we just aliasing the pointer as our destination? That makes sense, I guess, potentially. So, all right, so if that's our buffer, then what we want to do is, instead of doing this, we already have it. So we want to say iterator to string cster. So convert that to a string buffer, and then we want to string copy that into temp from there, and then nice file folder name, which is 255. All right, so we copy that into that buffer there, and then we get the absolute path, and we check to see if it exists. And if it doesn't exist, we error out. Otherwise, we get just the name, the stripped name from it. We say it's not a directory. We set the type as Sprite, and when the project file count is increased. Okay, so this can now go away because we have, at least in theory, replicated that same functionality. Why? Oh, because we're iterating through the JSON parsing that way. Okay. So now that we have that, next thing we need to do is do the same thing for the meta tiles, which are defined here, again, as a string array. So we have that now, and then make sure it's not null. And then same drill as before, we're going to look at what we did here and process the meta tile definitions here. So meta tiles and plus, oops, iter doesn't equal meta tiles and plus iter. One thing that's important to note is that when you have something that's a complex type like this iterator, you don't want to use iterator plus. You want to use plus iterator, because the postfix or the post increment versus the pre-increment will create a copy of that object before it does the increment, and it's wasteful to do. That was something I learned a while back. So I just got in the habit of doing that in general, just so I don't even think about it anymore. But in case anybody's wondering why I'm not doing iter plus or iter plus. All right, so let's see. Same thing here. We want to put the value into temp. It's doing the same exact process here, where it's getting the pointer of the buffer, and then it is we're going to do a string copy into temp from the iterator to string dot c string max file folder name All right, so we're doing our string copy there into temp. And then this logic is all the same. We don't need to do anything here that's different, which is good. So we've now got that working, or at least presumably working, where it's getting the name, it's stripping, it's getting the absolute, it's getting also just the name, and then it's putting it into the project files array. And then we're done with that. And then we say proper palettes equals object. Sorry, I keep bumping the mic. I have to make it higher or something like that because I keep my hand when I move over to get the mouse keeps bumping it. All right, so we want to get the array. This was palettes. And this is defining the list of palettes, palette files that we're using in the project because we obviously have to. We want to limit those based on the things we're actually loading into the game. All right, so we have that, and then we're going to say, what's going on with this? Why did it indent it weird? Oh, because I forgot a closing bracket. Okay. Palettes. So if it's not null, and again, same thing. And let's see, get property. Tokens, blah, blah, blah. Palette index. Palette index, where are you defined? That's over there, okay. So what we want to do is, again, this is all kind of really straightforward. There's not a whole lot of complexity in what we're doing here just because we're essentially rebuilding the same logic that we had, but with this new library instead. So not exactly the most exciting, sexy stuff here, but it's going to make the code a lot easier to work on to add the new stuff that we need to add. So let's see, iterator to string, C string. The reason I have to copy this, by the way, in case you're wondering why I'm taking a C string and copying it into this other buffer instead of just using what this is returning, is because the .cstring function is returning a buffer that holds the value of the string returned from the the standard C++ string, but that buffer is not guaranteed to exist if you were to call cstring again or destruct the object. It's temporary, so you have to copy it into storage somewhere, or you could run into problems where if you reference it later, it will not be valid any longer. So that's this. And I think we're good with that one. And then next one is levels. And if you look, the levels is an array of objects. So this time we're still getting an array, but it's going to be a little bit different because we are not just iterating through an array of strings this like we were with the other code. I think this is all old code. Okay. So get property index. We have our levels. We have an array of objects. And then we want to iterate through the objects and look at the layout property here, and it's going to say, you know, what it is, the map name and the scroll speed. It looks like I'm only reading the first one right now. All right, so forgot to do that. Okay. So we'll iterate through all of this. And then once we have that, what we need to do is for each of those are each objects. So let me see what this actually has here. So this technically has extract, so I should be able to do the same thing where we extract the object like we did above. Right, so that's the level itself. And then from there, what is the layout? The layout is also an array of objects. So we have our layout now, and what do we need from that? What are we actually loading up here? Layout. Map index is incremented. We get the name. Map name. So the only thing we care about in this is the map name, it looks like. Okay, so that makes this pretty easy since we don't care about the rest of the properties or looping through the rest of it correctly. So we increment that. I guess I should probably do this stuff like it's doing here. So we're in there. We do that. Temp index, and then map index. I'm not sure this would work if we had more than one map, but for now, it's fine. Again, we're just replacing what we have here with code that uses the new library. So we have our buffer. We're going to change this over to, say, layout, get think you do it like, oh wait. That's the first object. Should just be able to say map name like this, I believe. Except this is a pointer. Right, layout gets an array. That's a pointer, so we're dereferencing it. And then, what does the documentation say? That gets the array. And then I just say get value. So it's map name. Oh. I thought you could use indexing, but maybe not. Why is that not working? That gets me an array. Oh, because it is an array pointer. Oops. Oh, right. Okay. I'm trying to think. I was trying to think of why it wasn't working the way I was expecting it to, and it's because it is an array. So what I need to do is get just the first item in the array that is the layout, and then from there I should be able to get the value, right? Come on, typing. That's telling me if it is a string, but what about like actually getting the value out of it? So that can extract a type out of it. Let's see. Array pointer. I'm looking at the example of here where it gets the children, but then it doesn't actually go on any further to show the example of how to use that. If it's an array pointer, that's just a vector basically, and so that gives me back the iterator for it. Guess we can try. No, I don't want to do it that way. Although maybe I have to. Let's see. Well, but that wouldn't work because it's an array of objects, so I guess I have to extract the object pointer. And then from there, okay, yeah, and then I can get the value, and the value would be map name, right? Map name. Okay, so that gives me that. It just doesn't like an object pointer. Oh, the assignment would help, and then What don't you like about that? Get value. Oh. There we go. I didn't use the brackets there to specify the type that I needed to return back. So we have our map name in theory, and then what we're going to do is we're going to copy from this. Let's look at this code here. It is taking the map name and it is copying it into token from the JSON. And then, oh, okay, that's what it's doing. And then it's taking the current working path and it is appending this. So what we want to do, here's an example of where it's fine to just do this because we are just temporarily using that string. We actually don't need token then if we do that. All right, so hopefully we've made this less broken. And then that's just this stuff here. Let me do the following. Let me move this all to the bottom. No, I don't want to do it that way. That's... No, I do because it's just easier and it's going to be a lot faster. So you can just, if the what am I missing? Oh, is it because transfer control bypasses initialization of those variables? Yeah, I know, but I don't care about them. And they're not used, so... there should be nothing wrong with that. Functionally, anyway. Alright, fine. I don't know why it's going to be stupid about this, but fine. We'll try and get all of these initially, and if any of them are null, we'll go to the error code. Is that an actual error, or is that Visual Studio being weird? And then it doesn't like temp index for some reason. Why is that? Because it is not used anymore, I guess. Take a look at this code here for a second because I am a little bit confused about what temp index was doing. So let's take a look. Yeah, we're here. Temp map index was 0, and then we were using it for iterating through the JSMN library property stuff. So why would we be setting the map index to that value? Oh, because the map index... Okay, yeah, we don't need this. That's just how we were using it to... We were using that to iterate through the JSON before. And that's no longer relevant. Could not parse the project file because we encountered a null in one of the project properties. That's a more accurate description of the error. It's a terrible description of the error because it's not complete or detailed enough for it to actually be useful, but for the purposes of what we're doing right now, it is fine. We are allocating buffer over here, so let's do that. And actually, guess what? I bet after we parse this, boom, free up buffer. We don't have to care. We don't have to care about it being freed up. And all these other places where we have problems, we don't have to worry about it. Leak in memory, not that we really care, but generally speaking, you don't want to have your code leave you open to that anyway, so better to just keep yourself safe there. But I mean, you know, this is something that runs once to process the files, and then that's it. It doesn't really run for hours and hours and hours, where leaks, you know, memory leaks will cause a problem. Why? Is this because this is for the iterator or for the elements? Okay, so I was checking the wrong thing. Okay. I want to check to see if the shared pointer is null, and that was checking to see if... I thought that was weird that it was using the pointer deref, but I'm a little tired, so as much as I'm able to do, the brain isn't firing on all cylinders right now. Okay, let's see if that fixes those problems. Okay, we're gonna have the same problem here. The goal for tonight is to just get this to recompile with the new code and the new library, and then we can see how badly we've broken it. And then depending on how badly it's broken, we can continue or defer the rest of this work till Thursday. We're already about almost an hour in, so we'll see how far we get. All right, so we don't need any of these anymore because they don't exist in the project anymore. So we've read all of the file here. So then we're going to do a Poco JSON parser. I'll parse this JS code stuff. What is this that we're parsing? Sprite metadata. Okay, and then this is an object, so let's extract the object. right? If we look at what this actually is, I don't remember. I probably have an example. Yep. So here's the data. This is just a JSON representation of the Sprite data, the .sprite files, and this was created because we needed to be able to share some of that information and export it and re-import it and change stuff by hand at times, and that was kind of the easiest way. So now that we have the object, what we want to do is we want to get, if it's a projectile, if it's animated, stuff like that. So Sprite object get value boolean is projectile, and then see, stuff like this is definitely a lot cleaner because we're not doing any sort of weird passing by address. It's clear that, you know, what we're getting just kind of from the syntax for the most part. I mean, the function naming was pretty clear as far as it goes, but then there's a lot of extra baggage that gets passed in along and makes it a little bit gross. So, all right, so frame size is the next thing we want to get. Get property index for frame size. If we don't have that, then we return. Otherwise, there we go. Okay, so if it's animated, we need to read the frame size. Sprite object get. That is an object itself. And same thing we'll do here. So if frame size is null, return. So that's going to bomb out there. So we don't care about this code anymore. And then we want to get the frame size, width, and height. So frame size, get value. What are those types? They are unsigned characters. Okay, so and why does it do that sometimes? Okay. Frame height, frame size, get value, character height. Okay. We have that now. So then we want to check for our collision points. Can't spell collisions, obviously. Sprite object get array. Null, return. All right, so then what we need to do, what we're trying to do here is get the number of collision points. So I really can't spell collisions, can I? What is it? Count, length. Really, there's no way to know. You know, it is an array. Oh, size, there it is. was gonna say there is no way that there's not something that will tell us. Although, you know what, that might be telling us the size of the allocation of the array and not the number of elements, which is no good. So let's take a look. Return the size of the array. Is that the number of elements, though? Well, we'll find out. It should be the number of elements, but it doesn't say number of elements. It says the size of the array. So what could happen is in something like this, it could pre-allocate more elements than you actually need for the array. It doesn't actually say that it does that. And it doesn't have two different operators, so I'm going to assume that size is what we're looking for, but in some cases you'll get a structure where it has a size and a length, and it's because the size is how much memory is allocated for the thing, and the length is how many things are actually in, how many elements are in the thing, and they're not always the same. That's why I'm questioning that, but that's okay. So now we're allocating our memory for the collision points. And then we're setting the memory, and we have our index there, and then we're going to iterate through our collisions. So auto iterator equals collisions begin iter doesn't equal collisions end plus iterator. Okay. So if we go back to our collisions, this has no collision points in it, but the array exists. So, okay, that's fine. Technically, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's close these. So, okay, so it's got three objects. So we want to extract an object here. So that's the point for the collision point. And then from there, we want to set sprite collision points oh, Christmas. Okay. Can we just use index to do that? Because we don't need it for anything else. And we need an iterator for this array that we're storing the stuff into. So let's do that. That should be fine. Sprite collision points index equals x equals point get value point get value. Speaking of point and my bad pinky impression there. I don't know if anybody caught the. I'm sure you must have. We talked about it last week, but I'm still excited about the whole Pinky in the Brain and Animaniacs reboot. that was definitely one of my favorite shows as a kid. To the point where I did buy both of those DVD sets when they came out. No super conversion, but to UNT8. I guess it's the same. Oh yeah, it's a Vector 2B, but they're UNT8s. I bought the DVD sets, and the one thing I have to say is, as good as the DVD sets are, there's just something weird about watching them on modern TVs. I don't know if that's just my eyes or my nostalgia or whatever, but you know, I have a pretty good TV, and playing it on, you know, a reasonably good Blu-ray, DVD player, whatever that upscales it is, you know, it's fine. It works. But it does not look anywhere as good as what it looks like when you play it back through composite on CRT. And again, I don't know if that's just nostalgia. I think it probably is. I mean, I think, you know, the DVD quality is what it is, but there's something about the fact that it was made for that device. It looks better. To me, anyway, to my eyes. Sprite position. Sprite position. What is... Sprite position. What is this? Oh, these are the three... Okay. Yeah. These are the three different sprites that make up the image where they're placed. Within the actual sprite itself, which is really a composite of multiple hardware sprites, right? So, all right, so that is an array of objects. So change this condition to if sprite positions is null. I'm trying to think what other cool things are coming out recently that I was excited about, TV, movie, whatever wise. Excited for the PS5. Oh, I was excited to see that Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps is coming out on physical for the Switch. Those are great games, and to see them coming out on a physical edition is really cool. I also got, actually just happened to have it right here because it just came today, Ikaruga for the Switch, the physical edition of that. Just was excited. Was excited that that came in. And again, that was a physical edition too. I got something from Limited Run that came in today, but it's one of those things where I ordered it and then I was like, why did I order that? I definitely think that's FOMO. I hate that expression, but it's true. I think it's fear of missing out on something that I might want to get, and then it'll be super expensive on eBay afterwards. But I don't think I actually care about this game at all, so I'll probably end up just selling it. All right, so number of tiles, right? Okay, sorry, I've derailed myself. Size. Okay. And then also that Fire Emblem Special Edition thing that they just announced with the digital edition and the clear NES cartridge. I know it's kind of dumb that it's just coming with the digital edition and the cartridge isn't real and it doesn't have a physical version of the ROM doesn't come with a physical version of the ROM on a Switch cartridge, but I'm actually okay with that, I think, because ultimately somebody will hack the game and leak the ROM, which has been localized finally, and then I feel less bad about using that on an actual NES versus just taking the ROM. I don't know what the legalities of that are, but at least Nintendo got their money from me, and maybe that means they'll do something like that for other games that they haven't officially translated. Like they did that with Earthbound. What was it? Earthbound Zero, where they translated it and put it on the Wii U, and then you can download the ROM from most sites now. It's like, well, I bought it, so I should be able to play it on the NES if I want to. Alright, so we've got that. Don't care about that. We've allocated the memory and cleared it and all that good stuff. So index is going to be reset to 0 because we don't care about it for this stuff. We're going to set up a new iterator here. So we have that, and then we're just going to, for each of these iterators, we're going to extract the object, and then we're going to get the X, Y, and palette. And that should be it for that. So let's do that. All of this is going, obviously, like I said, based on the idea that I'm writing this code the right way. We're going to probably find that something was done wrong. And then, of course, we'll have to fix that, but that's okay. Oh, Back to the Future just came out on 4K Blu-ray. That's pretty cool. That was one I was waiting for a while. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I was extremely frustrated with Amazon for their inability to package things in a reasonable manner anymore. They sent over that in a bubble mailer. It got crushed, as you would expect. I asked them to exchange it. They sent it in a bubble mailer. It also got crushed again. And the same day I got a delivery of some of those button batteries, the CR2032s. And, they sent that in a box. Now, partially, I get it that it is it's a set of batteries, right? And so they need to ensure that they don't get crushed because that's dangerous. But at the same time, I'm not the only person, I'm sure, that will return stuff when it gets destroyed like that during shipping. And it's really frustrating that that keeps happening. And this is why I do not buy stuff that's collectible from Amazon anymore unless I have no choice, because 9 times out of 10 they will ship the damn thing in a bubble mailer, and then it will get destroyed while being shipped. And if it's collectible, then there is nothing that can be done about it, because you may not be able to order it again. All right, so I rewrote that code, right? I grabbed my position object, which is, you know, each of these lines, and then one thing I noticed was there's a syntax error where it had an extra comma there. And then I get the X, I get the Y, I get the palette name. I take palette as a string, convert it to C string, and then do the string end copy. So that's that. And then we have to do this for bounding boxes. This is kind of like rote work. That's why I'm not necessarily talking about what we're doing here, because it's not exactly the most exciting. But like I said, it's going to get us the gains we need ultimately. And sometimes you got to do that. Alright, so we have our bounding boxes. And then we're going to set the size to boxes size. We're going to allocate the memory for it. Set that to 0 because we're going to be using that. Then we're going to do same thing again. And we're going to extract the object. Okay, so there's the box that we are extracting from there. In this case, we have one bounding box. It's this object here. It starts at 0, 0, and it's 16 by 16. It's a big old bounding box. In theory, we could be a little bit more fine-grained if we wanted to, you know, and not just be totally kludging this, but it's okay for what we're doing right now. Close enough. So then we want to do sprite bounding boxes. Index x is equal to box get value int 16x. I think it's an int 16, right? UN 8. Okay. I didn't really think about it too carefully. That makes more sense, but are these also X and Y? What are you doing? Yeah, I know that code is wrong. Can you tell me? I'm pretty sure that this is going to be what we need to do here. Bounding boxes X, Y. Yeah, so we have this and we have this. Okay. Because the bounding box defines the XY coordinates for one corner and the other. And then what we want to do is we want to do index plus equals 2, so we don't overwrite the second one as we iterate. This should be iterator does not equal boxes end. This is size, okay. This should already be freed up after we call our parse. Let's see, how bad is it? Got quite a few left. I didn't honestly think it was going to take this long to do. So what I'll do is let's end it now here because we're over an hour. I'm probably going to end up spending another hour working on this, and rather than bore everybody by continuing to work on this code and talk about other things besides what the code is doing, I'll continue refactoring this so that when we come back on Thursday, assuming that I'm able to do the stream Thursday and not having to skip till Monday again, we'll have all this done and we'll actually get to work on code that impacts the NES side of things. So, as always, thank you for watching. If you want to reach me, I'm on Twitter at Clearvis. I'm on Video Game Sage as Zelius. I'm at zelius@gmail.com. Feel free to check out the description in the recording of the video on YouTube for information about pre-ordering the game to get a copy of the source code or get access to the source code before the game is released. What else? The Patreon, buy me a coffee, all that other stuff. Yeah, just we'll keep plugging away at this, and I will see you Thursday. Have a great night. Thanks for watching, and take care. See ya.